Hi everybody, thanks for joining me for another tutorial in Melinda's Rubber Room. I'm Melinda Pearson, I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I'm here today to show you how to do this twisted ribbon technique. So it's not actually ribbon, it's paper. And I'm going to point you down to my work surface and get right to it. Okay, so I have all of my cheat notes here. Hopefully you can see that. See if I can bring it down a little bit more. Okay, so here are some other samples that I did. This is using the Christmas paper and some different dies and embossing folders. This one actually uses 1/2 inch strips instead of 3/4 inch strips, and I'll explain that. And then I have this one. So as you can tell, I'm getting into the Christmas spirit. So today I'm going to use the Merriest Moments stamp set. This is a great bundle. It has all of the dies that coordinate with the stamp set, but it also has an embossing folder, and it has a die that coordinates with that embossing folder, and you actually do the die cutting of the embossing folder at the same time that you do the embossing. So you just fit it in to your machine and put it right through like that. So very clever design by Stampin' Up! And I'm going to show more of that in the future. But for right now, we're using some of the stamps from that stamp set. And we're using the paper from this designer series paper. It's called Bows of Hot Holly. Beautiful paper in here. It's got this natural look that I just love. And then it's got all the poinsettias. And then these ones and that great fun background. So be sure to check that out. That's in the mini holiday catalog, also viewable online at melindapierce.stampinup.net. So we start with a regular base card that measures 5.5 by 8.5, and it's scored at 4 1/4. We also have a piece of the same base color that measures 2 1/4 by 5.5, and I'm using cherry cobbler for this. It's a beautiful color for Christmas. I also have a piece of, actually 2 pieces of white cardstock that measure 4 inches by 5 1/4. That's for the inside and the outside of the card. And then I have another piece of white cardstock that measures 2 inches by 5 1/4. And that's going to be mounted on top of that piece there. You will need 8 total strips of cardstock. And I have 2 different designs here. I think you do want to go with 2 different designs. The first design, you have 4 of these strips. They measure 3/4 inch by 3.5 inches. And the second design measures 4 inch, you need 4 of those, and they measure 3/4 inch by 3.5. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is to move this over. And we have to make little tick marks on this piece of paper. So it's going to be every 3/4 inch. So I have those tick mark measurements here. So it's 3/4 inch is the first one. Right there. 1 1/2. 2 1/4. 3 inches, 3 3/4, and 4 1/2. So this, I'm going to turn that around the other way, like so, and do the same thing. So we're at 3/4 inch, 2 1/2. I'm sorry, 1 1/2, 2 1/4. 3 inches, 3 3/4, and 4 1/2. So right there. Okay, so those should be fairly close to each other, but fairly even with each other, but they are just a tad off, and that is okay because we're going to be putting our designer series paper on an angle. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do I don't know if you noticed with my samples, but there are a couple different techniques as far as how to lay your paper down. So if you want your twisted ribbon to go like this, then you're going to start with your non-dominant color, which I want this one to be. And that's going to go from the corner of your card stock to that first tick mark. Okay, now if you're going to do it this way, so this has the, this would be white on this paper. It has that shiny coming through in the center, whereas this one has it coming through on the angle. So it's a slightly different look, but still a fun card either way. So these will simply go right down your card like that. You're just going to lay them down and glue them down, just like so. So when you get to the bottom, you're going to put it at the tick mark and then down to the corner of your card base, just like so. So let me go ahead and glue those into place. So there's two ways that you can do this. You can apply the glue to the strips of paper like I just did. And when you do that, make sure you don't put the glue on these edges here because those are going to be cut off and you don't want to get messy scissors. So the other way that you can do it is just put glue right from that tick mark down to the other tick mark. Just lay it down just like that. I'm going to do the same thing. This time I'm going to go a little bit inside of those tick marks. That way it'll lay the glue down right in between the center of that strip. And this one goes right down at the bottom. So now you can cut the excess paper off now or later. It's totally up to you. To save time, I'm just going to lay all my strips down and then go back. Okay, so now what I want to do is lay this other piece down from this corner here down to the bottom of the other designer series paper. So I'm just going to go ahead and glue that down. Like so, and you can see how that's creating that diamond on the side. Same thing here. Go from this bottom tick mark up to here. So you're going from the bottom of the left designer series paper strip up to the top of the right one. So the bottom up to the top. And last one. Just like so. So I have those white triangles shining through right there versus these here. So for this one, you would just lay your paper down a little bit differently. I think you can probably see how that's done just by looking at the card itself. And you can kind of tell if you're doing it right, depending on where that base color is shining through. Okay, so I'm just going to turn this over. You can see I put too much glue on that first strip. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut those pieces of excess designer series paper off. I'm going to get a bigger scissor, make it easier. Well, this was the card that I did last week's Zoom session on Wednesday morning. I usually have my Zoom sessions every Wednesday from 10 a.m. to noon. I'm not doing one this week, but I might be online anyway. So feel free to click on the Zoom link on my Facebook page, and I might be on there. It's always fun to see new faces and to stamp with old friends. So yeah, check me out sometime and come join us. We talk about all kinds of stamping related issues as well as other issues, other topics. So it's just a fun time to get together and get to know some other stampers. Okay, so this piece here is going to go right on top of the piece of base cardstock that I had cut earlier. It does have a little bit of a border on the left and the right. And then I have my piece of white cardstock here that's going to go on the front of my card. This is a fun layout because you can have the card going landscape or portrait. And I'm going to do this one landscape. So I'm going to do it similar to this one, except with the wider strips instead of the narrow strips. So that's going to go right up here at the top. Just like so. And I'm going to stamp my greeting. And all of my greetings are from that same stamp set that I showed earlier, the Merriest Moments. Need to find my stamp pad here. So I am stamping with the cherry cobbler, the same as the base of my card. Just like so. I'm going to stamp a little poinsettia here. A little greenery on the inside. I'm using shaded spruce for the little inside of the flower. Okay, now all I have left is the inside of the card. I'm going to stamp my other greeting. I'll take this off, put this one on. And I want cherry cobbler again. Let me know in the comments if you've started your Christmas cards yet. It's never too early. Helps avoid the rush at the in November and December. I'm just going to repeat that flower on the inside. Just like so. And all I have left is to adhere this to the inside of the card. And there you have it. Again, you can use this design for any season. The first one that I had shown, this one here, was more fall oriented. I did use an embossing folder in the background and just brush over that with one of our blending brushes. I did do an embossing folder on this one as well. So that's another fun technique. This one I chose not to do that with. So getting back to this one with the narrower strips. So this one you're going to need 6 of the top strips and 5 of the bottom strips. And these are just 1/2 inch strips instead of 3/4 of an inch. And you're going to measure 1/2 inch increments down the side instead of 3/4 of an inch. So super easy to change that design up if you want more twisted ribbon technique than the original. You can do that as well. So I hope you had fun with that technique and enjoyed the tutorial. Feel free to join me on Wednesdays. Sorry, I can't get my camera to stay. Feel free to join me on Wednesdays from 10 a.m. to noon. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments on my YouTube channel or on my Facebook page at Melinda's Rubber Room. I'm always happy to help out fellow stampers and answer any questions you might have. So if you'd like to order, feel free to place an order on my online store at melindapierce.stampinup.net. Thanks again for joining me and have a great day. Bye-bye.